The Australian Outback is one of the few places on Earth where silence feels heavy. Not the peaceful silence of a quiet room, but a vast, pressing emptiness that seems to stretch in every direction at once, where the horizon never feels closer no matter how long you walk, and the air itself seems to drain strength from your body. It is a land of red dust, sharp heat, endless sky, and distances so large they deceive the human mind. Roads disappear into nothing. Trees offer little shade. Water hides itself like a secret. And in this immense wilderness, a single wrong decision can turn into a slow and invisible death sentence. In January of 2006, a man named Megee stepped into this world, believing, like many before him, that he understood it. And for 71 days, the Outback would teach him how small a human life can become, and how strong the will to survive truly is. Megee was not a stranger to hard conditions. He had worked on cattle stations, traveled remote roads, and spent time under the harsh Australian sun. He was not careless by nature, but on that particular day, fatigue, alcohol, and tension mixed in a way that clouded judgment. He was traveling through the Northern Territory with others when an argument broke out inside the vehicle. Voices grew sharp, tempers flared. And in a moment that felt simple and unimportant at the time, Ricky opened the door, stepped out onto the hot dirt, and began to walk away, believing he would cool down, believing the road would lead somewhere familiar, believing that someone would turn back for him. The vehicle drove off. The dust settled, and the Outback swallowed the sound of the engine. At first, the walk felt manageable. The sun was high, but Ricky had walked in heat before. His boots kicked red dust from a road. The bush stretched wide on either side, dry shrubs, scattered trees, and shimmering air that made distant shapes dance. He expected the road to curve, to meet another track, to lead toward a station or a town. But the land does not announce its dangers. The hours passed, the sun climbed, and the heat began to press down on him like a physical weight. Sweat soaked his clothes, then dried almost instantly. His mouth grew dry. His head began to ache. The road behind him no longer looked the same as the road ahead. And slowly, almost without noticing, Ricky realized that he could no longer see any clear sign of where he had come from or where he was going. The Outback does not need walls to trap you. It uses distance. It uses sameness. It uses exhaustion. Ricky left the track, trying to find higher ground, trying to spot a landmark. But every direction looked the same. The scrub grew thicker. The ground became uneven. Each step required more effort. The heat climbed toward dangerous levels. His breathing became heavy. His vision blurred at the edges. And then the truth settled in with quiet terror. He was lost. When the sun finally began to sink, the temperature dropped sharply. What had burned him all day now turned cold. Ricky found a small tree and collapsed beneath it, his body trembling from exhaustion. Insects crawled across his skin. The ground was hard and unforgiving. Somewhere in the distance, a dingo howled, and the sound carried far in the open night. There was no fire, no shelter, no water, only the dark and the growing fear that this land could end him without effort. He tried to sleep, but his mind raced, replaying the moment he had stepped out of the vehicle, the moment he had chosen to walk, the moment that now felt like the worst decision of his life. Morning brought no relief. The sun rose quickly, and with it came the heat once again. Ricky stood, dizzy and weak, and began to walk. His mouth felt thick, his lips cracked, his tongue swollen. Thirst is not gentle. It does not arrive all at once. It builds, tightening, drying, weakening. He followed animal tracks, hoping they would lead to water. He chewed leaves, searching for moisture. He swallowed ants and termites for energy, forcing down the taste. But the bush offered little. His urine grew dark, then stopped. His body began to conserve every drop of liquid it could. Each step became harder than the last. As the days passed, time lost its shape. There was no longer a clear difference between one day and the next, only the rising and falling of the sun, the burning heat, and the long cold nights. Hunger gnawed at him, but thirst ruled him. His thoughts became slow. Simple decisions felt complicated. The Outback did not attack him in one violent moment. It wore him down, quietly, patiently, as it has done to many before him. On the fifth day, when his strength was nearly gone, Ricky saw something that looked unreal against the dry landscape. A shallow cattle dam lay ahead, a pool of green, stagnant water surrounded by mud and animal tracks. The smell reached him before he arrived, thick and sour. Insects hovered above it. To a healthy person, the water would have looked dangerous, even deadly. To Ricky, it was life. He dropped to his knees and drank. The water was warm and foul. He gagged, vomited, and then drank again. His body rejected it, but his mind knew he could not stop. That dam became his world, the center of his survival, the thin line between living and dying. Ricky stayed near the dam. He built a crude shelter from branches, sticks, and scraps of plastic he found. He learned to move only in the early morning and late evening, when the heat was less brutal. During the day, he lay in the shade, conserving energy, swatting flies when he could, enduring their constant presence when he could not. They covered his face, crawled into his eyes and ears, fed on his sweat and blood. His skin cracked and burned. Small wounds became infected. His weight began to fall rapidly. His clothes hung loose on his frame. Food became whatever the desert offered. Frogs, lizards, beetles, grasshoppers, ants, snails, leeches. Sometimes he roasted them in the sun. Sometimes he swallowed them raw. He sucked moisture from leeches, swallowing the blood. Disgust disappeared. Pride disappeared. Only survival remained. His body weakened, but his mind held on, clinging to the simple goal of making it through another hour, another night, another sunrise. Weeks passed. Ricky began to hallucinate. He saw cars that were not there. He heard voices calling his name. He imagined cold water flowing over his hands. Each vision brought a rush of hope, followed by crushing disappointment when it vanished. He spoke aloud to himself, just to hear a human voice. Sometimes he laughed at nothing. Sometimes he cried until no tears came. Loneliness pressed in like a physical force. One night, thunder rolled across the sky. Rain fell, sudden and heavy. Ricky stood with his face turned upward, mouth open, drinking directly from the air. It was the first clean water he had tasted in weeks, and it felt like a gift. The storm passed quickly, and by morning the ground was already drying. But the memory of that rain stayed with him, a reminder that the world had not completely abandoned him. His body, however, was failing. His legs shook when he stood. His heart felt slow and weak. There were days when he believed he would not wake again. Once, he collapsed beside the dam and lay there for hours, unable to rise, certain that this was the end. But night came, cooler air eased his breathing, and somehow he lived. From that point on, he stopped thinking in days. He thought only in moments. Stand, drink, rest, survive. And then, on the 71st day, the silence of the outback was broken by a sound he had not heard in more than 2 months. An engine. At first, he thought it was another hallucination. But the sound grew louder, closer, real. Ricky forced his body upright and staggered toward it, pushing through scrub and dust. His legs barely held him. Each step felt like it might be his last. The vehicle appeared, a utility truck moving slowly across the land. The driver saw him and stopped, staring in disbelief at the thin, sunburned, barely recognizable figure emerging from the bush. Ricky Megee was alive. When the driver helped him into the vehicle and gave him water, slowly, carefully, the long ordeal ended. Authorities were called. A helicopter arrived. Doctors later said his survival was almost impossible. He had lost more than 30 kilograms. His organs were damaged. His body had been pushed far beyond its limits. But the Outback had not taken him. And in the end, Ricky would say that it was not strength that saved him, but the simple decision, made again and again, not to give up. When Ricky was lifted into the helicopter, the noise of the blades felt unreal, as if it belonged to another world entirely, a world far away from the flies, the dust, the hunger, and the endless heat. The paramedics wrapped him in blankets, though the air outside was warm, because his body no longer regulated temperature properly. His skin was stretched tightly over his bones, his eyes sunken, his lips split and bleeding. Every movement hurt. Every breath felt shallow. And yet, beneath the pain, there was something he had not felt in 71 days: safety. As the helicopter rose, the vastness of the outback revealed itself below him. Red earth, scattered trees, dry channels, and the small, muddy dam that had kept him alive for so long. From above, it looked insignificant, almost invisible. But Ricky knew that tiny patch of water had been the center of his existence, the difference between life and death. He closed his eyes, not from sleep, but from exhaustion, so deep it felt like his bones were hollow. At the hospital, doctors worked carefully. They could not give him too much food or water too quickly, because his body could not handle it. His organs were under severe strain. His muscles had wasted away. His immune system was weak. Infection had taken hold in several wounds. The medical staff spoke quietly around his bed, surprised not only that he was alive, but that he was conscious, able to speak, able to understand where he was. In the days that followed, Ricky drifted in and out of awareness. Sometimes he woke believing he was still under the tree, flies buzzing around his face, the dam just a few meters away. Other times, he recognized the white walls, the beeping machines, the voices of nurses. He cried without fully knowing why. Relief, grief, pain, and shock mixed together. Survival did not feel heroic. It felt heavy. News of his ordeal spread quickly. A man lost for 71 days in the Australian wilderness. Many assumed it was impossible. Many called it a miracle. But Ricky knew that the truth was simpler and harder. He had not survived because he was lucky alone. He survived because, even when his body failed him, his mind refused to accept that the story was over. As he regained strength, memories returned more clearly. The sound of insects at night, the burning sun on his back, the taste of dirty water, the endless waiting, the hallucinations that felt more real than the land around him, the crushing loneliness, and the constant, quiet fear that tomorrow would never come. He spoke of moments when he had considered lying down and letting the heat take him. Moments when the effort of standing felt pointless. Moments when hope felt like a burden. But each time, something small stopped him. A thought of family. A memory of laughter. The idea that somewhere, someone might still be looking for him. And sometimes, nothing more than stubbornness. Recovery was slow. His body needed months to heal. His weight returned gradually. His muscles rebuilt. But some scars remained, both visible and invisible. The outback had marked him. The silence he once ignored now held meaning. The sound of flies made his skin crawl. The smell of stagnant water brought back the taste of survival. And yet, Ricky spoke with respect for the land that nearly killed him. He did not curse it. He understood it. He knew that the outback does not hate. It simply exists, vast and indifferent. It demands preparation, humility, and respect. It punishes carelessness, but it also rewards those who learn its rules. His story became a lesson told across Australia and beyond. A reminder that modern roads, vehicles, and maps do not make wilderness harmless. A reminder that a single argument, a single decision, a single step away from safety can change everything. And a reminder that the human spirit, when stripped of comfort and certainty, can endure far more than most people ever imagine. 71 days. No shelter. Almost no food. Dirty water. Insects. Heat. Cold. Loneliness. Fear. And yet, Ricky Megee lived. Not because the outback spared him, but because he refused to surrender to it. And if there is one truth that echoes through this story, it is this. Survival is not about strength alone. It is about the decision, made again and again, to stand up, to move forward, and to believe, even in the deepest silence, that life is still possible. How many words count?